You think you are Nessie?
Who's Eze?
He runs North London, 3 goals thunder. Arsenal's #1. The derby's on fire, red side rising, taking us higher.
There are moments in football when everything feels like it slows down. When a single match, a single goal, or a single performance tears through the noise of an entire season and forces the world to stop and stare. Yesterday, the North London Derby delivered one of those moments. Not because of the rivalry alone, not because of the scoreline, but because of a performance that felt like destiny announcing itself on one of the most hostile stages in English football. A hat trick from a player who once walked out of the club's academy doors as a boy, only to return as a man draped in history. A hat trick from Eberechi Eze, the player Tottenham almost signed, the player Arsenal refused to lose again, the player who has now etched his name into Premier League folklore. And as the smoke clears, as the cheers fade into a stunned silence around England, one question pulses in the air. Did Arsenal just win the most decisive match of the season, even before Christmas? Because on a weekend where Manchester City lost, where Liverpool fell, and where the entire title race tilted on its axis, Arsenal didn't just win. They sent a message of depth, of belief, of evolution, and perhaps of inevitability. The kind of message title-winning teams send when everything begins to click in unison. A message that echoed through the stands, through the media, through every rival dressing room. Arsenal are 6 points clear, not of Manchester City, not of Liverpool, but of Chelsea, who suddenly look like the nearest challengers. 12 games into the season, and the whispers have already begun. Is this race already slipping away? But the truth is, this story didn't begin yesterday. It began years ago with pain, with rejection, with rebuilds, and with choices that shaped two clubs heading in opposite directions. Because long before this derby kicked off, long before the world saw Eberechi Eze glide across the pitch with the elegance of a natural number 10, Tottenham Hotspur had their chance. They had him in talks, serious, advanced, almost complete. And yet, they hesitated. They negotiated. They waited. And while they waited, Mikel Arteta made one phone call, one conversation on holiday, one simple message: come to Arsenal. In that moment, the story flipped. And yesterday, it came full circle. Arsenal arrived at this derby battered on paper but unbroken in spirit. Gabriel injured, Martin Odegaard unavailable, Declan Rice carrying a heavy workload. Their leader in the stands wrapped in the club scarf, watching his teammates fight without him. But this time, unlike previous seasons, they didn't stumble. They didn't panic. They didn't shrink. They adapted. They evolved. They looked Tottenham straight in the eyes and delivered what former Spurs manager Tim Sherwood called a footballing lesson. Because when you win without your captain, when you dominate without your best center-back, when your backup forward becomes your number 9 and your depth players look seamless, that's not just 3 points. That's a shift in identity. And Tottenham felt that shift like a punch to the stomach. The defining moment of the match happened in a space Tottenham should have owned. The pocket between the midfield and defense. The zone where a true number 10 lives and breathes. A space Eberechi Eze controlled with total authority. Look at the shot map from the match and the story becomes almost too perfect. Nearly every one of his attempts from the same patch of grass. The kind of repeated danger that any well-drilled defensive unit should recognize instantly. But Tottenham didn't. They couldn't. Mickey van de Ven, Christian Romero, and Destiny Udeji kept passing the responsibility between themselves like a hot coal. Pablo Fornals and Yves Bissouma were left chasing shadows, always one stride too late, always turning back toward their own goal, always reacting instead of anticipating. And by the time they understood what was happening, Eze had already written his name into derby history. 3 goals, each one a dagger, each one a reminder, each one a question Tottenham did not want to face. How did we let him slip away? This wasn't just tactical superiority. It was emotional weight. Imagine being a Spurs fan, walking into the Emirates already filled with dread, already knowing the gap between the two clubs is widening, and then watching the player who was almost yours dismantle your team in the most brutal, poetic way possible. Imagine hearing your own goalkeeper, Guglielmo Vicario, come out after the match and publicly say what the fans already felt in their bones. We lacked fight. In a derby match, in a rivalry defined by fire and fury, that alone was damning. But hearing it from one of the team's leaders? That's deeper than criticism. That's an alarm bell ringing through the dressing room. Because Tottenham didn't just lose 4-1. They collapsed. They showed fear. They looked like a team stuck between identities, still clinging to the rigid containment of the Conte and Mourinho eras, but without the firepower, discipline, or mentality to make it work. And the biggest irony of all? They set up with a back five to stop danger, and let the biggest danger stroll through untouched. While Tottenham sank further into uncertainty, Arsenal soared towards something bigger, something more complete, something that feels, even now, like the beginning of a true title charge. Because this was more than a derby. This was proof. Proof that Arteta's system is now strong enough to withstand injuries. Proof that squad depth, real depth, not hopeful potential, is now part of Arsenal's DNA. Proof that players like Leandro Trossard, Jurrien Timber, Takahiro Tomiyasu, and Jakub Kiwior aren't backups. They're solutions. Proof that this team has matured past fragility, past excuses, past the late-season collapses rivals hoped would define them forever. Arsenal fans felt it too. You could hear it in the voice of Luke Henry, one of the supporters who spoke after the match. His words weren't arrogant. They weren't delusional. They were grounded, but proud. Proud of a team building something real. Proud of a player who returned home after a 14-year journey. Proud of a defense that handled the absence of Gabriel with calm, precision, and dominance. Proud of the fact that this win came not from luck, not from chaos, but from structure, courage, and intelligence. And the beauty of it all? Arsenal did not even rely on a set piece, one of their strongest weapons this season. This was pure, expressive football. This was belief made visible. But with every rise comes the shadow of pressure. Because as quickly as hope appears, fear follows. Fear of complacency. Fear of history repeating itself. Fear of the long winter ahead. Arsenal fans know that titles are not won in November, but they can be lost. They know what lies ahead. Bayern Munich on Wednesday. Chelsea next weekend. After that, matches that look simple on paper but can derail everything. Brentford, Aston Villa, physical sides, disciplined sides, sides that punish lapses in intensity. Arsenal must carry this energy into every one of those battles. They cannot slow down. They cannot blink. And yet, hearing the tone of this fan base, hearing the caution mixed with confidence, you can sense something is different. Something is steadier. Something is stronger. For the first time in years, Arsenal feel like a team ready not just to challenge, but to finish. And the question now shifts from can they, to why shouldn't they? Because they have the momentum. They have the squad. They have the hunger. They have a number 10 playing with the grace and swagger of a superstar ascending in real time. They have a team that, for one afternoon, looked like champions. This North London derby didn't settle the title race, but it might have revealed its future. Arsenal are no longer the hunters. They are the hunted. Tottenham are no longer the threat. They are the warning. And Eberechi Eze, he is no longer the player Tottenham almost signed. He is the story Arsenal will tell for decades. So now, we leave you with the question that every neutral, every rival fan, and every Arsenal supporter will argue over in the coming days. Did Arsenal just prove they are the best team in England, and maybe even Europe? And if so, who can truly stop them? Thanks for watching. Let's hear your thoughts below. And as always, this is football, where stories never end. They only evolve.